I wanted to know from the material that you've checked out so far in the course and anywhere else that you've seen stuff within the program, what has stood out to you most so far? What have been some of the key takeaways?
So far I've gotten, let's see, I think I got into, I'm in like the third module, client psychology. Um,
Okay.
I think I finished the last video of that one. Anyway, so maybe it's a recency effect, but I'm thinking about the mindset where you had us write down how we feel about escorting clients, men, money, ourselves, and um, there's a I have like different all kinds of feelings about like men, for example, like both more positive and then negative ones too. So um yeah, that's interesting because I sometimes feel like, oh, men are terrible, and then but then I also assume that people are good feelings across the spectrum, but ultimately I would like to feel like benevolent or positive toward each of those all of those things. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. So that's the video that's kind of stood out to you most though so far, the values and beliefs work.
Yeah, that one was really like made me think um and then the most recent one again like I just watched it so it's on my mind but like what does my ideal client want and like tailoring or marketing myself toward that. Um yeah.
Okay. In that beliefs work, the thoughts on men, where did you get to on it?
What the one on men you said, my beliefs on men?
Yeah, and can you see how, like, the reason I raise that is so relevant to what we're doing, right? And will
Yeah.
obviously color, like, how we conduct ourselves in the business.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I can kind of read what I wrote. I wrote, men, horrible, will leave you, just want sex and can't control themselves. Some are respectful and want genuine emotional connection and are mature and will treat me with respect. They are visual creatures. They are easy to manipulate with the promise of sex, like some people. I believe in the goodness of people, that everyone is just a regular person who wants love and connection and appreciation. And that's where they start in my book, like at baseline. But then they can show me that they're not worth my time, energy, respect. And this is based off of my early sexual experiences, where I like had a lot of casual sex, and it was unfulfilling. And then also there were OnlyFans where a lot of the interactions, and there are a lot of time wasters. So yeah, I think that's kind of what color said.
Mm, okay. And did you hear the part in the video about how to, if you see the value in reprogramming that?
Yeah, like the rocks on the scale. Yeah, and so I do have many examples of like kind, good like men. So yeah, I was thinking about I gotta think more often about those.
Okay. Anything else on that topic?
On
On the men
um,
perception specifically?
no, that's what I had written, and yeah, I just am curious, hopeful, excited to kind of reprogram my um like yeah beliefs about men and it's not just who they are, it's like what I bring to the table too, and like my preconceived notions, experiences, and wasn't really conscious of that. Like wasn't acting very consciously, like I was just acting. And then now that I'm more aware, like self-aware, I can try to create situations where I have positive experiences, and then again that's like contributes to the reprogramming. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
what I hope for.
Okay. Good. Good. On that topic too, it's also a lot of escorts that I speak with. We have a very similar discussion to what you and I are having now. And I've been through that myself. I was fortunate in that I grew up with really positive, because I come from a big family. I've got five brothers. I was always close to my dad. I was kind of just lucky to be dealt a hand where I had really positive relationships with those 6 men. So then when I entered the industry, though, and I encountered some of what I did, and I'm going to talk about that in a second because it's really important. It's really important to how like you process this and your perception of stuff, just to have like the full facts. You know, even though I had a super positive background, I was still impacted by some stuff that happened in the industry. And that's, you know, me starting from, I'd say, on the spectrum of normal versus not normal. I think I was on the end of very positive relationship with men because I just happened to be born into that environment. But even then, when me stepping into the industry at 18, had, you know, it's all of a sudden, my exposure to men and interaction, like, you know, 10x as I went from being 18, having interaction with, you know, my brothers and father and the occasional boyfriend to, you know, I was working in a brothel seeing 5 or 6 clients a day. Like, firstly, if you look at it from a statistic point of view, you'd know this because you do medicine. It's like if you're seeing 50 more people, the likelihood of having negative interactions increases by a significant percentage, right? It's just a numbers game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The other part to be super aware of, which you might know consciously or you might kind of connect with subconsciously once I like verbalize this, is something that is really unique about the industry, which has its positives and negatives, is that we are interacting with people on a very anonymous basis all the time. So even in sugar, right, you're not typically sharing like all of your personal information. The other person isn't. There's this level of anonymity because you're engaging in a taboo kind of topic, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Similar with OnlyFans. If you go on Reddit, if you go on Twitter, which I can see you're on, what you'll notice is that there is a far higher percentage of really poor displays of human behavior. Like people get, even nothing to do with sex work, like how many Twitter scandals have there been of people just abusing each other on Twitter because they can basically sit there and be keyboard warriors?
Right, yeah.
So the normal rules of society, which you and I are governed by silently when we walk down the street, like if we bump into someone, we say, oh, excuse me, as opposed to, how dare you fucking bump into me? Because if we did that, we'd make a scene. Everybody would look at us. We'd be exiled. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
In anonymous places, escorting, sugar, OnlyFans, Twitter, Reddit, all of those things, when you remove accountability from society, unfortunately, you see a really poor aspect of people's behavior. That's regardless of the sex industry, but it's often accompanied with the sex industry because of the taboo nature. But if you were to look at any kind of more anonymous industry, which unfortunately is typically to do with like quote unquote negative things, that you kind of see the same behavior because people are operating in secrecy and they don't have to be accountable for what they do.
Yeah. I'm just even thinking about tabloid papers and the comment section. So cruel.
Totally. You can see it everywhere. Like it's just, if you are behind a screen and you have it's like, what do people do when they think no one's looking? They litter, they spit, they throw their gum on the ground. Whereas if somebody was looking, they'd know that that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't do that because they'd be fearful of the judgment.
Yeah, yeah.
So even just recognizing that, unfortunately, we're choosing to put ourselves in an industry where that's an element just gives us the awareness of, hey, like the shit that I do, like litter, this, that, when no one's watching, because I think I can get away with it, that is probably not the best behavior. Like we all have it on the spectrum. Some people are worse than others, but we all do things when we think no one is watching that we wouldn't do if somebody was watching.
Yeah, yeah.
But we've chosen a profession where we're operating in that world all the time. So we just have to have the awareness that we're seeing an aspect of people which isn't a reflection of normal everyday society. It's a part of it, but it's not the whole story.
Right. That's true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Like these people who are rude or whatever on OnlyFans, they really are regular people in real life, but you only see that particular side of them because, like you said, it's anonymous.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear here, the difference between an explanation and an excuse. This is not an excuse for their behavior.
Yeah.
This does not, what's the word for, forfeit accountability.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an explanation that you can probably understand that, hey, there's stuff that I do that I'm not proud of or wouldn't do in a normal setting.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make it okay when somebody texts you filth and says this and that. Totally doesn't make it okay. But it just helps you to see it more for what it is and to not end up with the view of, oh, I've had 20 men text me today saying shit things, men are shit. It's like, well, you're firstly operating in a situation where people are attracted to it under the veil of secrecy and are therefore more likely to act in this way. Whereas if you're operating in a different realm, you wouldn't be as exposed to it. And I'm not saying that the fault is with you, by the way. I want to make that super clear. The fault is still with the person. You still have to be accountable for your actions, but it's for our own protection so that we don't end up in this situation where we think all men are shit, this is shit, that's shit, which ultimately, I mean, who that affects mostly is just you. It doesn't affect them. They don't care about how you feel. It's really just you that has to wake up feeling that way every day, which is not pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, yeah, understanding, yeah, like the explanation for why this happens, and it would happen to anybody, like not just me, anyone that they're interacting with online. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I know that's all like pretty rational for something that can be emotional, right? Because you pick up your phone and open a message or you see a comment on OnlyFans, you have an emotional reaction. So I'm not trying to explain away your feelings. I'm just trying to, like, when we are in a rational state and we have the facts, then it can help. We can think about it like from different perspectives. Then when we are feeling more emotional, there might be a bit of a thing in your mind that goes, oh, hey, that's right. Like, this is that thing that Isabel said, this is what's happening here, and you react less emotionally, you know?
Yeah, and it says more about them and what maybe something going on in their lives than anything to do with me. I remember on Reddit I'll get some mean comments sometimes, and then I'll feel all defensive, and I'll look at their profile, and then all their comments are like that. I'm like, oh, they're just rude. Okay. So.
Totally. Okay. Important that we cover that topic, particularly when, I mean, you've been exposed to OnlyFans, where the volume of what you're dealing with would be quite high. But typically, if I'm dealing with someone who's going from sugaring, or somebody who's been with a parlor or agency and not dealt with the escort phone, and they're making the transition, it's really important that we have this conversation so that you can just be aware of, like, and that doesn't mean you're going to get shit texts from clients every day, but you are going to get some shit texts from clients sometimes. And if you can be mentally prepared for that, that will just make it a bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to learn more escorting tips, just click the link below this video.